My parents messaged, "Your wife shouldn't come. She's not family." My sister hearted the text, so I canceled their cruise and cut them off. They completely lost their minds. Hey Reddit, here's what nobody tells you about being successful while having a deadbeat family. You become everyone's personal bailout fund without ever signing up for the job. Anyways, it's in the past now. Grab your popcorn and let me tell you what happened. I'm Adrian, 34 male, regional sales director for a cybersecurity firm in Phoenix. Six-figure salary, company car, solid investments. Married to Ruby for 3 years. She's a corporate attorney who takes zero nonsense from anyone. That last part is important because my family absolutely hated her for that. See, Ruby has this annoying habit of asking questions when people want money. Revolutionary concepts like, "What's this for?" and "When are you paying Adrian back?" She also does this thing where she expects to be treated like, family. Crazy, right? My sister Chelsea especially can't stand her, because Ruby sees right through the Golden Child Act that's been working on everyone else for 30 years. Chelsea's the artistic, sensitive one who needs protecting and supporting. I'm the responsible, practical one who can figure things out alone. When Chelsea has problems, it's a family emergency requiring immediate intervention. When I have problems, I get a pat on the head and "You're smart, you'll work it out." This carried right into adulthood. Chelsea's car breaks down. Family crisis. Everyone needs to chip in. My car breaks down? Well, Adrian has a good job. He can handle it. The math is simple. Their problems are our problems. My problems are my problems. The money request started small, then escalated. Dad's truck needed a transmission. $3,200. Mom's credit cards were maxed from some Pinterest home renovation disaster. Chelsea was between jobs, again, and needed rent money to avoid eviction. I stepped up because that's what families do, right? Wrong. That's what suckers do. Once you pay for one emergency, suddenly every minor inconvenience becomes an Adrian-sized problem. Mom needs new appliances because the old ones don't match her Pinterest kitchen? Call Adrian. Chelsea wants to move in with her boyfriend Derek but needs first and last month's rent plus pet deposit for her emotional support dog? Adrian has got this. Derek, by the way, is a 31-year-old entrepreneur who thinks cryptocurrency is going to make him rich. He's been between real jobs for the entire 2 years he's been with Chelsea, but somehow always has money for drinks and video games. Chelsea calls him ambitious and ahead of his time. I call him unemployed. My brother Tyler moved to Denver 5 years ago and suddenly became very unavailable for family financial emergencies. Funny how distance creates financial amnesia. But he's always happy to show up for the fun stuff. Vacations he didn't pay for, dinners he didn't fund, the works. The breaking point came last Thanksgiving. We're all sitting around Mom and Dad's table when Chelsea starts crying about her credit card debt. "I just don't know how I'm going to make Christmas special for everyone," she sobs. Before I can even process what's happening, Dad's looking at me expectantly. "Adrian, you've always been so good at helping family through rough patches." Ruby kicks me under the table. Hard. "How much do you need?" I ask, because I'm apparently a masochist. "Just $3,000. To catch up and have a little left over for presents. $3,000 for presents. Not rent, not groceries." Ruby's voice cuts through all the family drama. "Chelsea, didn't you just get back from that spa weekend in Scottsdale?" The table goes quiet. Chelsea's tears dry up real quick. That was different. That was self-care. "Right," Ruby says. "Self-care that cost more than most people's rent." Dad clears his throat. "Ruby, we handle family finances as a family. And I'm not family?" Ruby's voice could cut glass. Mom jumps in with her peacemaker routine. "Of course you are, dear. But you haven't been around long enough to understand our dynamics." Right. That night, Ruby and I had our first real fight about my family. "They're using you," she said, "and they're excluding me because I ask uncomfortable questions." "They're not that bad," I said, which even I didn't believe. "Adrian, your sister spent $4,000 on a spa weekend and then cried about being broke at Thanksgiving dinner. Your parents expected you to bail her out, and when I pointed out the obvious contradiction, they told me I don't understand family dynamics." She wasn't wrong, but admitting that meant admitting I'd been played for years. Can you try to be more understanding?" I asked. Ruby looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Understanding of what? That your family treats you like an ATM and me like an outsider?" I should have listened to her. But family guilt is a heck of a drug. Words are easy. Last Christmas, Chelsea announced her engagement to Derek at family dinner. Shock of the century, right? Everyone cried happy tears. Dad broke out the expensive stuff. Mom immediately started planning the wedding. 3 sentences into the engagement story, Guess who got volunteered to help with expenses? Adrian is so good with planning stuff, Chelsea said, grabbing my arm across the table. And he knows all about booking travel and getting deals online. The assumption that my money was automatically part of their planning should have been my red flag. But I smiled and nodded like the good son I was. The wedding cost me about 12 grand between the venue deposit when their original payment bounced, bachelor party expenses that somehow included a weekend in Vegas for 8 guys, and covering the photographer when Derek's business loan fell through at the last minute. Chelsea looked radiant. Derek looked grateful. My bank account looked lighter. Ruby looked like she wanted to murder everyone. But the wedding was just the opening act. The honeymoon announcement came 2 weeks after the wedding, delivered with all the subtlety of a freight train. We're sitting around Mom and Dad's dining room table when Chelsea drops her big news. Derek and I want to do something really special for our honeymoon, she says, pulling out her phone with a Pinterest board. She's scrolling through pictures of infinity pools and sunset dinners, while everyone oohs and ahs like she's showing slides from heaven. That sounds amazing, honey, Mom gushes. But won't that be expensive? Here comes the setup. I can feel the manipulation building like a summer thunderstorm. Well, that's the best part, Chelsea beams. We want to make it a family celebration. Everyone can come with us. It'll be like extending the wedding joy. Because nothing says honeymoon like bringing your entire family along. I catch Ruby's eye across the table. She's got that look that says, here we go. Derek jumps in with his practiced enthusiasm. We've been researching group rates. If we book 10 people, we get major discounts on everything. Cruise cabins, flights, shore excursions, the whole experience. 10 people. Let me guess who's funding this mathematical miracle. That sounds incredible, Tyler says, already mentally spending money he won't contribute. When were you thinking? Dad asks. April, Chelsea says. Perfect weather, shoulder season pricing, everything aligns. I'm already doing math in my head because that's what I do. Mediterranean cruise for 10 people in decent cabins, flights to Barcelona, hotels, shore excursions, travel insurance. We're talking about $55,000 to $65,000. More if Chelsea decides she needs upgrades, which she will. Adrian is so good at booking these kinds of trips, Dad says, right on cue. Remember when he organized Mom's 60th birthday weekend in Napa? Yeah, I remember. I also remember being the only one who paid his full share. Plus, he has all those travel points from work, Mom adds. It just makes sense for him to coordinate everything. Makes sense for who exactly? That would be amazing, Adrian, Chelsea says, her eyes lighting up with dollar signs. You're so much better at this stuff than the rest of us. Ruby shifts beside me. I can practically hear her internal alarm system activating. Then Chelsea makes the mistake that changes everything. Obviously, this would be more of a family bonding thing. You know, just the core family group. It's really about Derek and me reconnecting with our childhood family dynamics. The temperature in the room drops about 10 degrees. Ruby is family, I say flatly, my voice cutting through their scheming. She's my wife. Well, of course she is, Chelsea says quickly, her smile getting tight around the edges. It's just, the cruise cabins are designed for couples and families. Adding extra people changes the whole dynamic. Extra people. That's when I felt something click in my brain. The same switch that flips during difficult negotiations at work when I stop being diplomatic and start being direct. Chelsea, I say, my voice calm but with steel underneath, let me be crystal clear about something. If Ruby isn't invited to this family celebration, then neither am I. And neither is my wallet. The table goes dead silent. Ruby smiles. Adrian, Dad starts. But I cut him off. No, this isn't a negotiation. Ruby is my family. If she's not welcome at a family vacation, then I'm not funding or attending a family vacation. Chelsea's face goes through several expressions. But Adrian, this is my honeymoon celebration. Then celebrate it with your husband. On your dime. Mom tries her peacemaker routine. Maybe we're all being a bit hasty. No, Mom. We're being clear. I lean back in my chair, completely calm. I've spent years funding family emergencies, bailing out family members, and listening to complaints about my wife. That stops now. Ruby comes, or I don't. Choose. The silence stretches for what feels like forever. Finally, Dad clears his throat. Of course, Ruby's welcome. We're all family here. Wonderful, Ruby says with a smile. I'd love to come on the family vacation. Chelsea forces a smile that looks like it physically hurts. Great. That's great. 10 people it is. But I can see it in her eyes. In all their eyes. They're pissed. They agreed to include her, but they sure as hell weren't happy about it. That resentment was going to come back to bite all of us. Against Ruby's subtle warnings, delivered with the precision of a legal brief and twice as convincing, I found myself spending the next 3 months becoming the family travel coordinator. Not because I wanted to, but because somehow volunteering to fund their vacation had automatically made me the trip's project manager. Ruby made her position crystal clear. If you want to spend $60,000 on people who clearly resent my existence, that's your choice. But don't expect me to pretend their passive-aggressive BS is normal, and don't expect me to be nice about it when it inevitably blows up in your face. She was right, but I was already committed. Chelsea had launched a full-scale charm offensive that would make a political campaign manager proud. Daily texts about how excited she was, how this was going to be the perfect family bonding experience, how grateful everyone was for my generosity and expertise. The planning consumed my evenings and weekends like a second job. When I wasn't managing cybersecurity protocols for Fortune 500 companies, I was researching cruise lines, comparing cabin categories, reading reviews of shore excursion companies in 3 different languages. Chelsea changed her mind about cabin upgrades. First, she wanted the basic balcony rooms because we're not picky. Then she decided honeymoon suites should be special, so I upgraded them to the next tier. Then she saw photos of the premium suites online and decided those were more honeymoon appropriate. Each upgrade cost an extra $1,200 per room. But hey, it's her honeymoon, right? The third one she'd planned this year. But who's counting? Mom developed elaborate dietary requirements that needed to be communicated to the cruise kitchen staff. Apparently, she was now gluten-sensitive, dairy intolerant, and required organic vegetables. This was news to everyone, including her, who'd been eating Wonder Bread and Velveeta for the past 60 years. Dad wanted specific wine tasting tours in the French Riviera. Tyler requested shore excursions that were Instagram-worthy for his girlfriend Amanda, who'd apparently joined the trip without anyone mentioning it to me. Uncle Bob needed connecting flights. Aunt Linda wanted to make sure there were shopping opportunities at every port. Everyone had opinions, requests, and requirements that somehow became my responsibility to fulfill. I handled every detail because that's what I do. Solve problems and make life smooth for everyone. The cruise reservation alone required 8 phone calls spanning 2 weeks. Travel insurance meant comparing 6 different companies to find comprehensive coverage, including medical evacuation, trip cancellation, and lost luggage protection. Because God forbid anything go wrong on a vacation, I was paying for while half the family wished my wife wasn't coming. I used my corporate travel status to get everyone perks they'd never appreciate and access they'd never earn on their own. Shore excursions got their own color-coded spreadsheet, wine tours for Dad, shopping districts for Mom and Amanda, romantic sunset dinners for Chelsea and Derek, group activities for everyone to bond together, museum tours, cooking classes, flamenco shows. Every activity researched and booked based on their individual interests. The deposits started draining my accounts in February. $38,400 for the cruise, $12,600 for flights, $5,800 for hotels, another $4,200 for shore excursions, travel insurance, and miscellaneous reservations. Total damage, $63,800. I was basically funding a small wedding at this point. Again, don't worry, everyone kept saying. We'll pay you back as soon as our tax refunds come in. Or next bonus for sure. Or my personal favorite, we're family, we'll figure it out. Right. We'd figure it out the same way we figured out all their previous debts, by pretending they didn't exist until I quietly absorbed them. The most infuriating part was Chelsea's running commentary throughout the planning process. Daily texts about how perfect everything was going to be, how this was exactly the kind of family celebration she'd always dreamed of. The works. Never once acknowledging that she'd fought against including my wife in this dream celebration. 2 weeks before departure, she called with one final request. Adrian, I've been thinking. Since the cruise has formal dinner nights, maybe we should upgrade everyone's cabins one more time. The premium suites have better closet space for formal wear. Another $800 per room. Because apparently proper closet space was essential for a vacation. Half my family wished my wife wasn't attending. Sure, Chelsea, whatever makes you happy. You're the best brother ever. This is going to be absolutely perfect. Ruby watched me work on the planning spreadsheets. You know this isn't going to end well, right? It's just a vacation, I said, updating flight confirmations for the 5th time that week. It's a $60,000 statement about who matters in your family. And they made it very clear that I barely made the cut. She wasn't wrong, but I was already too deep to back out without looking like the jerk who ruined Chelsea's honeymoon celebration. All of it planned with love. All of it about to explode in the most spectacular way possible. But first, they needed to make one crucial mistake. Thursday, 7:23 p.m. I'm at my desk reviewing final travel documents when my phone buzzes with a notification from the family group chat. The chat is called Mediterranean Dreams. At this point, I could plan international travel logistics blindfolded. Every confirmation email, every insurance policy, every backup reservation perfectly organized in color-coded folders. Chelsea's message appears first. I know we're not supposed to talk about this stuff, but I'm getting really anxious about the group dynamic on this trip. My stomach immediately drops. Dad's message follows. We all love Adrian, but bringing Ruby is going to change the whole family vibe. She always makes everything about money and logistics instead of just enjoying the moment. Tyler jumps in. Remember last Christmas when she basically accused Chelsea of being irresponsible? This is supposed to be a celebration, not an audit. I stop reading and scroll up to make sure I'm seeing this right. They're talking about my wife like she's some kind of party crasher. Mom adds her contribution. I just wish we could have one family vacation where we don't have to watch everything we say. Ruby is so judgmental about how we handle money and family decisions. Derek tries to sound reasonable. Look, I get that she's Adrian's wife, but she doesn't understand our family culture. We're spontaneous and fun. She's all spreadsheets and schedules. Chelsea delivers the real gut punch. The worst part is how Adrian changed after he married her. He never used to nitpick about money or question family decisions. Now he's always asking when we'll pay him back or making us feel guilty about accepting help. Mom closes out with, I just hope this vacation helps Adrian remember that blood is thicker than water. Some relationships last forever. Others are just chapters in your life. Then the emoji reactions start appearing. Heart emojis on messages about how Ruby doesn't understand the family. Thumbs up on comments about how I've changed since marriage. Laughing faces on jokes about my wife being judgmental. My entire family is virtually applauding their resentment of my wife, and their hope that this vacation will drive a wedge between us. I sit there staring at the screen, trying to process what I'm reading. They either forgot I was in the chat, or they don't care that I can see everything. But then I notice something that makes my blood run cold. The message timestamps show this conversation has been going on for 20 minutes. 20 minutes of them trashing my wife and analyzing my marriage while I was planning their vacation. My phone buzzes with a text from Ruby. How's the travel planning going? I screenshot the entire group chat conversation and send it to her without commentary. Her response comes immediately. What the hell? Another text. They're talking about me like I'm some kind of parasite. Then, I'm coming home. Don't respond to that chat until I get there. Too late. I was already typing. I sent one simple message to the group chat. Well, this is enlightening. The chat goes silent immediately. Just dead silence as they realize I saw everything. Then the individual texts start flooding in. Chelsea. Adrian. That conversation wasn't meant to hurt anyone. But it's too late. I've seen exactly what they think of my wife and me. Ruby appears in the doorway. Babe, I saw your texts. What are you going to do? I turn to face her. The woman I should have prioritized from the very beginning. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I say calmly. Her eyes narrow. She knows that tone. She's been married to me long enough to recognize when I've switched from accommodating to problem-solving mode. How exactly? I turn back to my computer and open the cruise line's website. She sits down in the chair across from my desk. You're going to cancel everything. I'm going to give them what they want. I click on the booking management portal. Ruby leans back in her chair, grinning. By 10 p.m., I had dismantled their entire vacation like a controlled demolition. They wanted a family vacation where they could freely discuss how my wife had ruined me. I was giving them exactly that, the freedom to discuss it at home while I took my ruined self to Japan with the woman who actually deserved my generosity. The cruise cancellation was first. I logged into the booking portal and found the reservation for 10 passengers, Mediterranean luxury package. The cancellation policy was crystal clear. Full refund if canceled more than 14 days prior to departure. We had exactly 16 days. Click. Confirm done. Your cruise reservation has been successfully canceled. Refund will process within 5 to 7 business days. Amount, $38,400. I saved the confirmation email to a new folder labeled Consequences and moved on to flights. 10 first-class tickets to Barcelona, booked through my corporate travel account. Premium seats, extra baggage, priority boarding, all the upgrades I'd secured using my status and connections. Your cancellation has been processed. Refund amount, $12,600. Hotels came next, and this is where it got interesting. I'd booked 4 different properties across Barcelona to accommodate everyone's specific preferences and dietary restrictions. Each hotel had different cancellation policies, different deadlines, different procedures. But I'd read every cancellation policy when I booked them originally. Because that's what you do when you're spending your own money. Most offered full refunds with adequate notice. A few charged modest processing fees that I was happy to absorb. I worked through them, documenting everything for my own records. My phone had started buzzing around 9:30 when the automated cruise confirmation emails stopped coming. By 10:15, it was ringing constantly. I ignored every call and kept working. Shore excursions were next. Every activity I'd researched and booked based on their individual interests and preferences. Every experience I'd carefully curated to make their vacation perfect. Cancelled. Each confirmation felt like cutting a rope that had been pulling me underwater for years. Ruby brought me coffee and pulled up a chair to watch the show. "How many more?" she asked. "Just the insurance claim," I said, opening the travel protection portal. This is where it gets interesting. The comprehensive travel insurance I'd purchased was the masterpiece of my planning. $63,800 total coverage, premium plan with trip cancellation, medical evacuation, lost luggage, everything Mom had worried about during her dramatic health consultations. Since I was the policyholder and the one initiating the cancellation, the comprehensive coverage would reimburse most of the amount. The insurance company's online portal made the claim process straightforward. Upload cancellation confirmations. Provide a brief explanation. Submit for review. Under Reason for Cancellation, I typed, "Family emergency requiring immediate trip cancellation. Discovery of family members' hostile attitudes toward primary traveler's spouse, making group travel impossible." By 11:30 p.m., every trace of their vacation had been systematically erased. My phone was buzzing like an angry wasp. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages. The notifications kept coming like machine gun fire. "How do you feel?" Ruby asked. "Amazing," I said honestly. My phone rang again. Chelsea's number. I answered on the 5th ring and put it on speaker so Ruby could enjoy the show. "Adrian, what the hell did you do?" Her voice was shrill with panic, but I kept my tone neutral. "Good evening, Chelsea. I handled the booking situation exactly as discussed. You canceled our honeymoon. Our entire trip is gone. Everything is gone. You said you wanted a family vacation where Ruby's influence wouldn't interfere with the group dynamic. I removed that interference completely. That's not what we meant, and you know it." Ruby leaned forward with interest. "What did you mean then, Chelsea?" "Oh, great. Ruby's there too. This is just perfect." "Answer the question," Ruby said in her lawyer voice. "What exactly did you mean when you said Adrian changed after marrying me and that this vacation would remind him who his real family is?" Long pause. Then, we meant we want things to be easy and fun like they used to be." "Right," I said. "So you wanted the old Adrian who paid for everything and didn't ask questions." "It's not about the money. It's entirely about the money," Ruby interrupted. "You wanted his credit card and his planning skills, but you wanted to spend a week talking about how I ruined him." More silence. Then Derek's voice in the background. "Tell him we'll include Ruby properly this time. Tell him we're sorry." Ruby laughed. "Now you're sorry? After you spent 20 minutes in a group chat trashing me and my husband?" "Adrian, please," Chelsea was crying now. "This is my honeymoon. You can't destroy my honeymoon because you're mad about some stupid group chat." "I didn't destroy anything," I said calmly. "I respected your honest feelings about my wife and our marriage. We're family. You can't just abandon your family. You disrespected me and my wife. Actions have consequences." I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Ruby kissed my forehead. "I'm proud of you." My phone started ringing again. Different numbers, same desperation. I turned it off and went to bed. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. I woke up to Ruby shaking my shoulder gently. "Babe, you need to see this." My phone had been charging overnight in blessed silence. When I powered it back on, it exploded with notifications. 67 missed calls, 112 text messages, 14 voicemails. The desperation was beautiful, but the anger was concerning. Chelsea had left 8 voicemails between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. "Adrian, I know you're mad, but this isn't just about me. Tyler took vacation days he can't get back. Mom and Dad used their anniversary money. Fix this now. If you don't respond soon, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are." Derek is crying. My husband is crying because his honeymoon is destroyed. You're a selfish bastard, and I hope you realize that. By the final voicemail, she'd dropped all pretense. "You've destroyed everything, and I will make your life hell until you fix this. You think you can just screw over your family? We'll see about that." Tyler's messages were even more aggressive. "Dude, what the heck? I already got my vaccinations for the trip. You're going to pay for replacing all of this. Mom's having chest pains from stress. She's at the hospital right now getting checked out. If something happens to her, that's on you, a whole. Dad's approach was more calculated but equally disturbing. Son, this isn't the man your mother and I raised. If you think you can manipulate this family with money games, you're mistaken. We'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. Around 9 a.m., my doorbell started ringing aggressively. The security camera showed not just Chelsea and Derek, but Mom, Dad, and Tyler too. This wasn't a friendly visit. Dad was pounding on the door like police serving a warrant. Adrian, we know you're in there. Dad's voice was aggressive, nothing like his usual reasonable tone. Your neighbors can see us out here. Open this door right now. Chelsea was taking photos of my house with her phone, probably for the social media campaign she'd threatened. You can't hide in there forever. Everyone's going to know what you did. Tyler was pacing in my driveway like a caged animal. This is bullshit. We have rights here. Rights. To my money, apparently. I called Ruby at work. They're at the house. This isn't a reconciliation attempt. I'm coming home, she said immediately. Don't open that door. Document everything. After an hour and 15 minutes of pounding, yelling, and photographing my property, they finally left. But not before Dad shouted, "This isn't over, son! We'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." That afternoon, Chelsea made good on her threat. She posted a 2,000-word Facebook rant titled, "How My Brother Stole Our Family Honeymoon," complete with photos of my house, my full name, and details about my employer. The post painted me as a vindictive monster who'd stolen their honeymoon money and destroyed family relationships out of pure spite. She shared screenshots of some of our planning conversations, carefully edited to remove context and make me look controlling and manipulative. Within hours, it had been shared over 200 times in our extended family network. My work email started getting messages from random relatives I hadn't talked to in years, lecturing me about family loyalty and demanding I do the right thing. But it got worse. Someone had shared my direct work line, and now strangers were calling my office to tell me what a disappointment I was to my family. My assistant, Janet, came to my office looking stressed. "Mr. Brown, you've got about 20 voicemails from people claiming to be your family members. They're not pleasant. Should I forward them to HR?" "No, just delete them," I said. "And if anyone else calls claiming to be family, take a message, but don't put them through." That evening, I received a call from an unexpected source. "Adrian, this is Isabel, Ruby's mom, calling my direct line." "Hi, Isabel. How are you?" "I'm well, dear. But I'm calling because Ruby told me what happened. I also saw that horrible Facebook post your sister made. David and I want you to know we're proud of you for standing up for your marriage. That was unexpected and desperately needed. We also think you should document everything they're doing. This behavior isn't normal family conflict, son. It's harassment, and it might get worse." She was right. This had moved beyond hurt feelings. Thursday morning brought a new escalation. They showed up at my workplace. I got a call from security around 2 p.m. "Mr. Brown, your family is asking to speak with you and your manager about some kind of financial dispute. Should we let them up?" I looked out my office window and saw them in the parking lot. Chelsea, Derek, Mom, and Dad, all dressed like they were attending a funeral. Chelsea was holding a folder of what looked like printed documents, probably her carefully curated evidence of my wrongdoing. "Don't let them in the building," I told security. "And document everything. Take photos, get their license plates, note how long they stay." They stood in our parking lot for over 2 hours, approaching employees as they left work, trying to tell their version of the story to my colleagues. Derek actually followed one of my coworkers to his car to explain the situation. When that didn't work, they moved to the next phase. Ruby came home from work looking concerned. "They called my office today. My secretary said some woman claimed to be your sister and wanted to discuss a family emergency. When Brenda refused to put the call through, the woman started screaming about how I'd poisoned you against your family." This was spiraling from embarrassing into genuinely harassing behavior. The travel insurance company called me the next morning with good news that was about to become very bad news for my family. "Mr. Brown, your claim has been approved for substantial coverage. Since you were the policyholder and initiated cancellation due to documented family emergency, you're eligible for reimbursement of $48,500 after deductibles and processing fees. Combined with the other refunds, I was looking at recovering about $58,000 of what I'd spent. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt like I was about to face the full fury of people who just realized their manipulation had not only failed, but backfired. I was right. The insurance payout hitting my account was like throwing gasoline on an already dangerous fire. Within 24 hours of the deposit, my family's harassment campaign shifted into overdrive. Chelsea launched a social media blitz that would make a political operative proud. Multiple Facebook posts, Instagram stories, even a TikTok video titled, "My Brother Stole Our Honeymoon Money," that somehow got 30,000 views. She included my full name, photos of my house, and details about my employer. But the real escalation came when they decided to make it personal. Dad started driving by our house multiple times a day, sometimes parking across the street for hours. Our neighbor mentioned seeing him taking photos of our cars, our yard, even our bedroom windows. "That man's been out there 3 times today," she told Ruby. "Yesterday, I saw him writing down your license plate numbers. It's making me nervous." Chelsea began leaving packages on our doorstep, old family photos with aggressive notes attached. One photo of us at Christmas had, "Remember when you had a soul?" written across it in red marker. Another childhood photo came with a note, "Ruby turned you into a jerk." Tyler created fake social media accounts to circumvent my blocks, sending unhinged messages about how I'd destroyed mom's health and that dad was drinking himself to death because of my selfishness. The messages came at all hours, designed to maximize psychological impact. But the breaking point came on a Saturday morning when we woke up to find "Family Destroyer" spray painted across our garage door in blood-red letters. Our security camera caught Chelsea and Derek doing it at 3 a.m., Derek acting as lookout while Chelsea wielded the spray can like she was Banksy, creating a masterpiece. I watched the footage. "This stops now. I'm calling the police." Ruby turned to look at me and nodded. The officer arrived within an hour and reviewed our documentation, threatening messages, evidence of workplace harassment, photos of dad's surveillance, and the security footage of the vandalism. "This is textbook harassment and stalking," he said, taking notes. "You have grounds for restraining orders against all of them." The restraining order paperwork was filed Monday morning, though the process would take several days. Mom, Dad, Chelsea, Derek, and Tyler would eventually be legally prohibited from contacting us, coming within 500 feet of our home or workplaces, or posting about us on social media. The judge was particularly harsh about the workplace harassment during the hearing 3 days later. Attempting to interfere with someone's employment over a private family dispute is completely unacceptable behavior. This order includes all forms of contact, direct, through third parties, or via social media. When the orders were finally served on Friday, Chelsea's response was swift and spectacularly stupid. According to the process server, she screamed, "This is illegal! He can't just cut off his family," while ripping up the paperwork. Within the next week, she violated the order by calling my office and screaming at Janet, my assistant, for 20 minutes about how I destroyed the family and demanding my manager's contact information. Janet, bless her heart, recorded the entire call and forwarded it to the police. Chelsea was arrested for violating a protective order 2 days later and spent a night in jail before Derek could scrape together bail money. The arrest seemed to break whatever delusion had been driving their harassment campaign. The social media posts stopped. The drive-bys ended. The workplace calls ceased. 3 months later, my house was finally peaceful. The security cameras I'd installed captured nothing more interesting than delivery drivers and the occasional raccoon. My work environment returned to normal. Ruby's office stopped fielding crazy calls from my family members. The recovered funds allowed us to pay off most of our mortgage, max out our retirement accounts, and take a 2-week vacation to Japan, a trip we planned together, funded with money that was actually ours, and enjoyed without a single guilt-inducing phone call. Sure, I was still out about $5,000 from the whole fiasco, but considering it as the cost of permanently removing toxic people from my life, best money I ever spent. 6 months later, I heard through extended family that Derek had filed for divorce. Apparently, spending your honeymoon money on legal fees and bail instead of Mediterranean cruises puts a strain on a marriage. Who could have predicted that? Tyler moved back from Denver, probably because his free vacation funding had dried up. Mom and Dad sold their house and moved to a retirement community in Tucson, far enough away that dropping by wasn't an option anymore. The restraining orders remain in effect. None of them have attempted contact since Chelsea's arrest taught them that actions have consequences. The best part, I sleep great now. No 2 a.m. anxiety about other people's financial crises. No wondering if I'm helping or enabling. No guilt about having success while they made terrible decisions. No wife feeling excluded from her own family. Ruby's parents have become more like family to me than my biological relatives ever were. They invited us to their anniversary celebration last month, a modest dinner where everyone was welcome and no one needed to fund anyone else's dreams. Turns out, I didn't lose a family. I just legally removed a group of parasites who'd never acted like one. Respect costs nothing, but the lack of it can cost someone their freedom, their marriage, and their financial security. My family learned that lesson at a $61,000 tuition rate plus court fees, legal bills, and criminal charges. Best investment in my mental health and marriage I ever made. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.